land of Zebulun, land of Naphtali, on the road to the sea, on the other side of the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. The people living in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned.
O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel, that mourns in lonely exile here, until the Son of God appear. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to you, O Israel. O come, O wisdom from on high, who ordered all things mightily, towards the path of knowledge show, and teach us in its ways to go. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to you, O Israel. Oh, come, O bright and morning star, and bring us comfort from afar. Dispel the shadows of the night, and turn our darkness into light. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to you, O Israel. O come, O King of nations, bind in one the hearts of all mankind. Bid all our sad divisions cease, and be yourself a King of peace. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to you, O Israel.
Welcome. For many years I had the pleasure of working with Kerry Kirkland, a Canadian-born singer living in the UK. Sadly for me, due to personal circumstances, Kerry had to return to North America some years ago, and she now lives in Palm Springs, California. Not only is Kerry a supremely gifted musician, she's also an amazing person. And earlier this year, she became a living kidney donor. Now, given it's the time of year when we're all thinking very much about gifts, I thought it'd be a good idea to catch up with Kerry. And I began by asking her about where she is right now in her own personal faith journey.
I don't think anyone's asked me that ever. That's good.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I'm in a place where I think I'm very open to feeling like there is something greater than me and or than humans at work. I don't know that I'm ready to define exactly what that is, but I do feel, sort of I mean, I live in California. Come on. It's the energy. It's the, it's that kind of wishy-washy God of the universe and nature and the energy of the collective like that. I can wrap my head around that. I still can. I still sing in choir. Like I just on Sunday sang at an Episcopal church, and I grew up. Yeah, my dad was a hymn writer for the United Church in Canada, um, and maybe that tempered my state of the mind right now. I think it's like anything when you grow up with it so very present. At first you completely rebel against it and reject it, which I think I did in my early life. And then you can sort of come around to it, but you have to come around to it in your own way, in your own time. And my belief right now is is that there's a greater there's a greater presence at work that I feel. Um, but again, I think labeling is a little tough for me.
Tell us a little bit about Robert. How did you get to know Robert, and how have you sort of known of him?
Yeah. Well, Robert, actually, Gary, my husband, Gary, kind of discovered him playing locally in Seattle with his band. He has a band that he's been with for, I think they've been together 16 years. It's called Surrealized, and it's kind of electronica. Robert does a lot of digital programming, but does it live. And so it's kind of like live instruments mixed with programming. It's really cool sound and really, really cool to watch live because everything happens in the moment. And Gary was looking for a house band basically for Emerald City Trapeze because, they had a lot of parties, a lot of shows, a lot of after parties. And
Yeah,
so
we need to explain the backstory here
yeah,
that
yeah,
that you
yeah.
guys once ran a trapeze school.
Yes, exactly. I mean, this is a venue that is very cathedral like itself and became a gathering place for many of the misfits of Seattle, taught circus and had, lots of big circus shows there. But Gary wanted a really unique house band for those events and for those shows. Surrealized played at our wedding that was at Emerald City Trapeze, and they played while I flew across on the trapeze to Gary. And that was about an hour before we actually got married on stage. So they had been really sort of at these beautiful moments, after shows that we had worked so hard on and at our wedding. And Robert and his wife got married, I think it was 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks after we did. Robert and Lynn came down here to the desert to visit because Robert had to get a special dialysis in Los Angeles. And we're pretty close to there, so they came to visit. And that was really when we realized how advanced and how sort of urgent his situation was with his kidney failure. But it wasn't until January of this year that Robert and Lynn, his wife, put out sort of a widespread call to all their friends and family because it turned out that Robert was actually fairly close to death. Um, they had given him about a year to live without a kidney transplant. And he had been accepted onto the donor registry, which is harder than I knew. I didn't know it was difficult to get on, and found out there were about 98,000 people ahead of him on the registry. At which point, a direct donation was the only chance for him.
Yeah. And what was the actual process you went through to sort of? Did you have to go through many tests, or was it just a simple one-off thing?
Very first one's very easy because it's just a blood test. So they need to find out if you're compatible through blood, which I was. And so then because of COVID, it was a little bit different than I think it normally is. So we did a lot of telemedicine, a lot of video calls, had to do like a very deep dive psychological profile, which, and on the one hand, it's kind of interesting to to have that, to know, like, okay, making sure that I'm doing this for the right reason if I'm going to do it. But I passed all that, and then there were probably 6 or 8 video calls, and then I had to go in for about 16 vials of blood again to do more testing. At which point they said, "Okay, we're gonna bring you up to Seattle. You've kind of made it through all of the first hoops." And then when I did the testing in Seattle, I flew up there just for 24 hours, and that was 9 hours of physical tests. And when that was all over, they actually asked us if there was any chance that we were related, because they had found that the match was as close as a sibling match.
Wow.
And we then kind of looked at each other and said, "Is there any chance we're almost the same age? Is there any possibility that, some funny business?" And no, there was no way. So at that point, when we knew it, the match was so rare and so close that in my mind, it was already a done deal. That was it. It was going to happen.
But nevertheless, I mean, to say the least, it's a very difficult, big decision to make, isn't it?
No, it was not.
Wasn't it?
No. And in fact, on the day that I saw their Facebook post on January 30th, Gary and I were on a walk and my phone pinged, and I don't usually look at it when we're out for a walk, but I picked it up and looked at it, and there it is. There's, this post, and I looked at him and I said, "Would this be crazy?" And he said, "Yeah, but you're going to do it anyway." And I said, "Yeah, I am." And we've both talked about it since then. We both knew in that moment that it was going to happen. And whatever that was, whatever that knowing was, whatever that faith in, that gut feeling, we both had it and we both knew. And so when the time came that the actual science backed up that feeling, the decision had already been made. It had been made months before. It was a very simple decision because it was our friend who was about to die. There was no consideration of anything else.
Do you think that any of because without wishing to embarrass you, we generally live in an increasingly selfish, self-centered sort of world. I don't think anybody can deny that, really. And yet this is a hugely selfless act on your part. Have you ever sort of thought about the sort of the impetus behind that, that sort of, does it come back to, sort of, do you think about things like the teachings of Jesus to, love other people like you love yourself and that sort of thing? I just wonder if any of that sort of played into it, or whether you've sort of examined in your own head what sort of drove that desire within you.
The word selfless has come up many, many times with, anybody who finds out about this says, what a selfless act, what a selfless thing to do. I mean, in a way, okay, yes, I understand that. That on the surface, that makes sense. It makes sense that as to why that would be perceived that way. If I dig a little deeper, though, honestly, it saved Robert for sure, and that is something that is this beautiful connection that we'll always have, but in a way it woke me up. And so while I do feel like it was altruistic on my part, I didn't expect anything from it, and I never do and never will. It was a gift to me because it made me sort of focus in on my health and on my relationship to say, are we strong enough to get through this? Are we okay? And um, it allowed me to examine myself in a way that I wouldn't have otherwise, because of the psychological examination of asking you, why are you doing this? Very plainly. For me, it was a simple answer. I love my friend. I don't want him to die. I can't imagine getting the phone call from his wife saying he died. And I didn't do anything, but at the same time, what he gave to me is so rich because I changed a lot of my habits. I also changed the way I think about the world. And I think about, how many times have I passed by somebody who's asking for help on the street and I didn't do anything? You know, I, I'm, it's one of those things where sometimes you get so overwhelmed by it that you don't do anything. And now I think about, gosh, if somebody's asking for help, that's a huge step, you know. I need to help. I need to do what I can. And it changed something in me. I think I was a good person before, but I think now I'm a more focused person and I'm paying attention to the now. It really, really put me in the right now. And so while I think that, of course, you know, do unto others, that's a big part for sure. I also think that when you think about your actions and when you think about what you do today can have such an impact. It's not so much selfless as it is. The vocabulary sort of escapes me, but it's like this circle.
It's interesting you talk about it as a gift to yourself because also the process that was involved actually involved a lot of other people becoming part of that gift because obviously we should mention at this point that we're talking about healthcare in the US, which never comes free, or very very rarely comes free, and a substantial amount of money had to be paid for this to had to be raised for this to happen,
Yes.
and that seemed to happen almost in the blink of an eye, and involves so many other people from around the world.
It did. I mean, Robert's wife Lynn set up a GoFundMe to help cover some of the costs. There were, obviously costs of getting me up there and a place for me to stay during recovery because I had to stay there for 2 weeks. And the cost of the insurance deductibles, which, as everybody here knows, are completely ridiculous. But also a lot of time away from work for Robert and Lynn. I mean, Robert still has to go to the hospital 3 times a week now after surgery. And she set that up. And I think within 2 days, I think it was within 48 hours, people from all over the world contributed and they surpassed the goal. I mean, she shut it down because she was feeling embarrassed. She said, this embarrassment of riches, like we don't need anymore. We met the goal. And yes, it happened almost instantly. And I mean, that's a testament to how wonderful they are. I mean, Robert and Lynn are very much a part of their community, both musically, but also, they're just good people. They help other people. They reach out. I mean, Lynn organizes drives for the homeless in Seattle, and they've both done benefit concert. I mean, they're just great people, and their community loves them. And I think that I had support from my circus community as well because they remembered, Robert was in your space. They were in there, they were
Yeah.
performing and bringing music and life to these events. Like I say, this, not to get too hokey on it, but it is a big circle and you're part of it and you go around and around in it and you help push up the hill when you need to and you enjoy the ride when you're going down the hill on the other side and you roll along.
Yeah. And you mentioned obviously that Robert's still got sort of a long road ahead, but how's he doing now?
It getting better. Yeah. 8.5 years on dialysis took a huge toll on him. He had some cardiac issues, and he had a cardiac event about 3 days after the surgery. And it was very scary for the very beginnings of that transition time. Since then, they've been able to sort of modify his medication to help with that. But, he's still on about 40 pills a day. And like I say, 3 trips to the hospital per week, and they're monitoring everything on him. But the good part is that the actual organ, the kidney, they told both of us that when they removed it from me, it was one of the healthiest kidneys they've ever seen. And my surgeon's been doing this for 24 years. And, I said, don't tell me that just to make me feel good. And he said, I wouldn't. But, it went into Robert, and it started working immediately. And because Robert hadn't had a functioning kidney in so long, he said he could instantly feel the difference. And that's only getting better because his body's adjusting to it. And, there's just a lot. It's a complicated process. And I think that I have to spend every day just hoping that it's making him feel as good as it's making me feel, because I don't want to be too cocky about it. Like, I feel great. And sorry, you don't feel that great. I want him to feel great too.
And going forward, is there any part of you which has any fear or regret about what you did?
No, not even an ounce. No. I think the only fear I felt initially, when I was in the hospital, the day of the surgery, my mom had flown down from Vancouver to take care of me, and she took a fall on the day of the surgery. And so, because of COVID, she was the only person cleared to come and visit me in the hospital. And so when she took a fall, she couldn't come in. And so I was very much alone for my entire hospital stay. And I had some complications with blood pressure. My blood pressure dropped. So I think that was the only moment of fear, because I thought something's really wrong and I'm alone. And, those were moments where I had to just go inside and draw on strength that I knew was there and get through it. But regret, absolutely none whatsoever. I would, if I could do the entire thing again, I wouldn't change a thing. I would try to do it sooner if I could have, because knowing the amount of pain he was in before the surgery, I wish I could have done it months earlier. It takes time in the system to get it done. And, but I do hope that people will know and can learn and understand that this process, if you're, relatively healthy going into it, I would never call it easy, but it's certainly not as difficult or painful or scary, as I expected it to be. I didn't know because I'd never had surgery, but anything that I expected was blown away. Everything has been positive, and it was so relatively easy to do this. I would not even hesitate a second. Even now, if somebody needed something else that I was able to give, I would give it, because it just feels like the right thing to do. And if people know anybody, with a kidney issue and who needs a kidney, please, you can reach out to me. You can ask questions anytime. You can find me through UAID. Honestly, there are so many people on the waiting list. I found out now that the updated numbers about in the US is about 162,000 people waiting for a kidney. That's just a kidney, let alone other organs. So it's easy to mark off on your driver's license here that you want to be an organ donor. Some people don't think about how much that can save somebody, but you can also do that while you're alive.
Yep. Well, we'll try and put. I'll try and find a few links, appropriate links to put on the description of the video to help
Great.
people to do that. And well, my friend, it was an incredible gift, and you are an incredible person. So thank you so much for talking to us about it.
It's great to talk to you, and I hope this helps.
Hello, I hope you've got all your Christmas presents wrapped. Got all mine here now, ready to give to Santa to distribute. And I've even gone mad a little bit and put little gold twirly things on some of them, because I'm rubbish at wrapping. So I have to distract it some way. All the cards have been sent. I don't send many because you have to take a mortgage out these days to actually buy stamps. The turkey's in the freezer, all ready to go. And I don't know about you, but I love looking for presents for people. Trying to find that slightly unusual one. I think I've found a slightly unusual one for my grandson, who's going to be 13 on Boxing Day. But you always take a chance with teenagers. I like shopping in my PJs on the sofa with my glass of wine, and I look through Etsy, some very clever people, and Amazon to look for inspiration, what to buy for people. And you can't wait, can you, to see the reaction of that person when they open your present, and they will know instantly how much thought went into that present. And sometimes it's a bit disappointing. They just say, thank you. Well, I suppose you should be grateful that we get thank you these days, because people have got no manners. But somehow what you wanted was, whoa, that's awesome. That's fantastic. That's just me. But we don't. And, you know, we put a bit of ourselves into the time that we spent choosing those presents and wrapping those presents. And we're filled with expectation, aren't we? And we can't wait, just like little kids can't wait for Santa to come. And we give gifts out of love. The people we buy the gifts for, we love them. And we only want the best for them. And we want to get them something that is worthy, not something we've just grabbed on Christmas Eve because it's gone half price. Long ago, a gift was prepared. Prophets foretold it. Angels proclaimed it. Shepherds and wise men received it. A gift from God our Father. Time taken to give us just the right gift. Baby, a pure little newborn baby, born in a stable. Lots of thought went into that gift. It was a gift we needed to complete us, to make us the people that God wants us to be. It was indeed a gift of love, enough to change us, enough to change the world. If only we would appreciate that gift, to realise that God gave something of himself in Jesus. Someone to change our lives through his example and through his determination to get it right and put us right with God by going to the cross and bursting out of the tomb. Something we don't think about, do we? Something we don't think about when we buy our gifts, I suppose. Because it gives you more, the more you get to understand the gift. It's like when you pick up a gift, you think, do you know what? I never noticed that. And it's a gift that keeps on giving, if you like, because it fills you with hope when the world seems hopeless. Joy, a joy in the simple things of life, and a peace that the world cannot give and which we desperately need right now. Because love came down at Christmas, that was the gift that we were given by God. Something to feel, not necessarily see. And sometimes we need to just stop in the craziness of life. And let's face it, I'm not sure it could get much crazier. Just to stop and feel the presence of God. It's not always about the words. It's a lot about the feeling. God's gift to us is love, is joy, is hope, is peace. And we have to accept that gift. It's no good to us if we just go, yeah, right, thanks, put it on one side and never bother with it again. Because if we accept this gift and all that it brings, it will be the best gift ever. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. What a gift!
Dear God, I'm worried. I'm worried I might not be able to see my family at Christmas again. I'm exhausted by the pandemic, with every day seeming to bring just more and more bad news. I'm worried about the threat to jobs, to lives, to homes. I worry how it's isolating and dehumanizing us, and I hate how it's driven a wedge between people. I'm disillusioned with the politicians. I feel manipulated and lied to. Really, I think I'm just weary. I've had enough. I know. Actually, I know you better than you know yourself, in case you'd forgotten. What can I say? Well, let me tell you this. I am the God of good health and rich harvest, but I'm also the God of plague and famine. I am ever present in all things. And I have never left your side, and I never shall. I feel crushed by the amount of big things I can't possibly change. I feel helpless and I feel vulnerable. It seems we're constantly battered with terrorism, by war, or even just the fear of war. The oceans are full of plastics, cities are smothered in smog. Violence of the most extreme type is seemingly rife. What sort of world are we leaving to our children, Lord? You might remember that my son told his disciples that I knew and cared about the smallest sparrow that fell to earth. He also said, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me." Well, that was good advice then. And you know what? It still is. And remember this: the most seemingly insignificant encounters and decisions in your life can be life-changing for a single person, maybe for a whole nation, or even the entire world. Just stay close to me. Listen to what I say and be ready to act when your cue comes. You know, I miss so much all the people that I've lost. And I'm often assailed by this incredible sadness that it seems we're only born to lose what we love. And you know that sometimes makes me scared to invest my love in someone because, well, it would make losing them even harder, perhaps even unbearably hard. Read your Bible. You were created for life, not death. Don't hold back your love. It's a commodity in short enough supply as it is. Hear me when I tell you that love cannot be destroyed. Trust in me, and I will bring you to a place where there is no more mourning, no more weeping. A place filled with glorious, eternal love. The trouble is, I don't think I'm good enough for heaven. I've done things, thought things that I couldn't bear to tell even my closest family or friends about. Yet you, well, you see every single stain, every wound, every burden. They are laid out before you as clearly as a map. And it's an overwhelming charge sheet. So how can I ever expect to make it through the gates of heaven? You've been listening to the deceiver. He'll always seek to undermine your confidence in my mercy. So let's get this straight. No one is good enough. The good news is that your admittance to abundant, glorious, everlasting life isn't dependent on being good enough. It has already been purchased with the sacrifice of the cross. So take another step forward, embrace the truth, and accept the greatest gift of all. I hope you enjoyed our first episode. If you did, please click the thumbs up icon. That helps us to reach a wider audience on YouTube. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And if you click the bell icon, you'll be notified of every time we upload a new video. For now, thanks for watching. See you soon. God bless.